Finally, this patch has been 2 whole months of nearly non-stop work. So much is changing and there's so much I want to talk about in more detail, but this video will hopefully stay focused on just letting you know how to play the game again. So it's like a patch rundown, as opposed to what I normally do, which is rant relentlessly about games design. You know, if you're interested in just what's changing between 2.x and 3.0, this is for you, and I'll talk more about whys and the hows and the grand tale of all the changes in later videos, especially for this first one. So in 3.0, the biggest reason that it's called 3.0 and not 2.5 is AP is gone. That's it. Everything is an invuln save now, basically. You don't modify saves anymore. This has so many benefits. Number one, it makes balancing the game possible as opposed to impossible. It completely cleans up the unpredictable and unexplored edge cases of durability. Durability itself becomes more swingy. Like if you've got some Skitarii Rangers or whatever, and they've got a 4-up save and you throw 20 bolt gun shots at them, or you hand them 20 bolt gun shots, they don't modify the save at all. They just have to make their 4-up saves. And so the swinginess of the durability is way higher. And this leads to way more interesting game states way more often. And it's faster. The game is way faster. Imagine, so if anyone has tried to teach anyone to play 40k Reforged, you'll know how difficult it is to teach people how heavy armor works. It sounds fairly simple, but actually it's not. And especially when you're in sort of tactical brain mode, even I find it so difficult to snap into simple arithmetic and then back down to game theory brain. So that's another thing. Like people just hand you dice and they don't have to tell you that. You know how there's that moment in every 40k game where every single time you hand someone a new weapon, you have to tell them what the AP is. It doesn't sound like a big cost, but because it happens every single turn, it adds up over time. It just adds seconds to the game, and a quicker game is much faster. So it's faster, your save is meaningful. Yeah, this needs a whole video, as you can see. It's ridiculous. So no AP. Yeah, your save is your save. 2-up Terminators are saving on 2s permanently, except against, you know, one thing. So the next biggest change is to transports. We basically flipped the design of transports completely on its head. If the underlying mechanic is too powerful fundamentally that it can't be good, it isn't fun. So what I figured out basically is transports aren't allowed to be good if they keep doing what they do now. So I basically flipped the design of transports on its head and thought, what downside do transports actually have to have so that the most fun version of transports is allowed to exist? And what that downside looks like is that the unit inside the transport needs to die if the transport dies. And that's it. That's the change. You can just make rhinos 120 points and they can have an awesome ability and they can just be awesome. Like the only downside is that if you do something insane with them and then your opponent blows it up, the unit inside dies. The risk is way higher. The reward is way higher. We got a fun unit now, and we've play tested the crap out of this already. This is one of the most awesome changes in 3.0. So there's 2 changes to the weapon type system. One of them is to the weapon type specifically. Let's just do that one now. So heavy weapons, you couldn't shoot with a heavy weapon if you advanced in 2.4x. There's that word again, cannot. Hate that word. It always wrecks things, and it's been wrecking things for a while. It makes selecting assault weapons and heavy weapons in a loadout very awkward. We just need to lessen the downside of advancing with a heavy weapon a little bit. So instead of cannot fire with your heavy weapon, you can fire with your heavy weapon, you just can't shoot at anything further than 8 inches away. So heavy weapons are basically have the same range as a pistol if you're advancing with one of them. It just means they don't completely turn off when you advance. The other change is to the melee weapons. It's mostly a melee weapon change, and that is to pile in. So the pile-in range itself has gone from 3 to 4, which isn't very impactful on its own, but the impactful part is that instead of needing to get within engagement range of an enemy unit to trigger a pile-in move, you can get within 4 inches of an enemy unit and then pile in. And that's why the pile in is 4 inches. So yeah, basically this is a change to the relation. Both of these changes are changes to the relationships between melee and CQ weapons and assault and heavy weapons. And so yeah, that's it. We're just sort of giving more access to melee weapons, you know, without just making them blatantly more powerful or without parking some of their power and doing control effects on engagement range and leaving engagement range and whatnot. It's like, no, you can just go into melee more easily and just do your sword sword attacks is fine. And then at the other end, we got heavy weapons that are sort of holding back the assault weapons a bit too much. And in a lot of spots, especially on like tanks and stuff, and it's also on like special weapons and whatnot, you'll have one special weapon that's heavy, and then it's very weird when the one las cannon holds back the rest of the legionnaires from using the upside of their assault weapons. So just let the heavy weapons advance and shoot, but the range of the heavy weapon is massively reduced when you do so. That's fine. We'll move on to a few of the less impactful changes, mostly in the weapon ability. So we've been sort of talking about different weapon abilities for a few weeks now. We're gonna have Pierce, and that's on like power swords and melters and rail guns and plasma and everything that was highly penetrative, you know, like phasing through armor and all this kind of stuff. That has Pierce now, which is just AP1, but that's really impactful in the new system. And you'll see why in a minute, because some models can have 2 health and be 100 points. And that's because once you start stacking durability, you can make each pip of health really quite annoying to get rid of. Shred. So Shred is for chain swords and anything that is kind of explosive once you hit it, I guess. You'll start to see some patterns with the units that we give Shred, like Tau Pulse rifles have Shred and Pulse. It's like when the shot hits you, what we're looking for with Shred is when things wound you, it's like explosive or something like that. As opposed to Blast itself, which is another new keyword, we have Blast. We have that Blast is where after each individual hit roll, that hit roll splits into a number of wound rolls equal to the damage of the weapon. So a mortar has one attack, D7 blast. So what happens is you roll one, thunk your one mortar shell, and then when it lands, if it hits, it explodes into 7 wound rolls, we've been looking for a clean way to do fragmentation and frag grenades, and we got Precision, works the same. Precision has not full rework, but it's basically the same idea as what we did to transports, is that we looked at something that was not that fun, and we looked at why is it not fun, and then if you just cut the thing that the ability is doing that is making it too powerful to be fun, you just cut that part away and then it becomes fun. And so the reason that Precision sucked is because it could kill leaders, and we don't like that. Basically, I could go into why, but basically Precision can't be allowed to kill leaders, so it essentially can't be good, which is a problem. And so we just left it kind of how it was. And so then it was like the same thing with transports, where it's like, well, hang on, if the problem with Precision is that it can kill leaders, what if it just didn't kill leaders? And that was the answer. So there's no 6-up precision, 5-up precision, 3-up precision. Precision is just precision. Precision is precision. If you have a precision weapon, you get to choose the model that wound applies to. Period. End of story. Every single one. That does mean that the damage output of the weapon is lower, but you get to choose every single model that dies, which is fun as hell. And because of the way that we set up the special weapons and the normal weapons and all these kinds of things, this is really impactful stuff. If you're up against a Legionnaire squad and they've got a melter gun and a las cannon, you can pick off that melter gun and the las cannon pretty easily. It's awesome. Something else that's awesome is suppressive. The suppression system is perfect. It's awesome. I'm in love with it. It is so much fun. But suppressive weapons themselves came out to be a bit on the weak side. And as a few people pointed out, it is admittedly a bit of an aesthetic fail to have suppressive weapons do 0 damage and have the potential to do no damage, It's just an aesthetic fail. And so even though you're right, I didn't know how to make that work yet. It's like, I would love for them to do both damage and suppressive, but if the suppressive effect is as powerful as it should be, then I've got no room for the damage. But it turns out there is room for some damage. So basically you can do both. You just get to do damage and the suppressive effect. And it's fun. It's awesome. Yes, obviously the damage isn't quite as good as just a normal damage gun, but god damn, it's fun to be like, blasting your autocannon at a unit and it kills a guy and suppresses the next 4. Awesome stuff. So much fun. We adjusted the scale of a lot of units so that it would feel a lot more elite. So that's like Space Marines and Harlequins and elite, all elite Eldar stuff is getting sort of overhauled. You're going to have to do a few double takes when you see Custodes. One troop guy is 90 points and he's a solo guy. Yeah, there's a full balance pass, obviously. We have our very shiny, super robust balancing tool, which is where we spent the first 3 weeks of this patch developing. Yeah, we chased AP until it cracked. Basically, I completely solved AP and then we sat back and had a look at it and said, this is gross. Just get rid of it and then just do save as save. And it's awesome. So instead of 15 weapon rolls, you just get 3, which is awesome. All the factions that were mostly easy to update are here. This is like all the Imperium stuff and all the Xeno stuff. There are a few factions that are not ready yet, and that is because they need more work. They need more attention. That is Eldari Craft Worlds. The whole Fate Dice thing is not working for them. This is, it's going to be better. Obviously, I'm going to make them way better. It's going to be awesome, but I need more time. And the other one is Space Marines. All of them. The way that I have been doing Space Marines is gone. They are going to be their own thing. You're going to have Chaos Space Marines and Space Marines as standalone factions that are going to be perfectly playable on their own. And then we're going to layer on we're going to layer on Blood Angels and stuff to that. We're going to talk about that later. You know, I don't want to give you any stopgap changes. I can't for 3.0 that you can play for a few weeks, because it'll take me 2 weeks to do that, because they need a full balance pass for 3.0, so it's not worth it. Yeah, we're just gonna put out what we've got now, and we'll do Craft World Space Marines in the next few weeks. I just need some more time with them. This is definitely the biggest leap forward in gameplay quality ever. And that's saying a lot. We've been working on this for a long time. And it's in large part thanks to everyone who watched my first videos and annoyed me with their opinions. So thank you so much for being here. Yeah, this patch is really exciting. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you've got to say about it. So, and Tyranids. Tyranids are coming later in the week. Anyway, I'll see you soon.